Hello, everybody. This is Tom from the First, the Last, of Nerdum. Kind of flying solo today. I'm doing a review of Dancer's Lament by Ian C. Esslemont. This is part of the Malazan books. I've started the series about July of last year. I started in on Stephen Erickson's Malazan Book of the Fallen, and I've kind of bled on into Ian C. Esslemont's Malazan books. I've read all 6 of those. I've did videos on those. There are more my reactions, kind of overviews. I kind of went over like groups of them, and it was sort of kind of a hodgepodge thing where I just kind of touched on the things that I liked, things that made an impression on me. But it was kind of scattered, not really a review, so I just called them reactions. I hope with Dancer's Lament, I give an actual review of it, and so let me know how I do. But yeah, so with a review, of course, you're going to touch on some of the elements of the story, but I'm going to keep from doing any big spoilers. The only thing that I'll talk about is only things that help me kind of do the review, and I won't go over like major events in the book and spoil those. And I'm not going to spoil things from the other Malazan books as well, which is kind of a tightrope that I'm going to have to kind of walk between. But again, I won't say any major spoilers. Now, if you don't want to be spoiled at all and just want to know my thoughts, whether or not I recommend the book, I do recommend the book. Really enjoyed it, and then I'm going to expound upon it here. Alright, so Dancer's Lament is book 1 of Path of the Ascendancy, Path to Ascendancy, and it's Ian's prequel. And it kind of focuses on 2 pivotal characters from the other series. I won't say who they are. They actually go by different names in this book, so I'm kind of curious how people take these books, because you can take them depending on your experience with the series and how long it's been with you. I know the first book that Stephen Erickson did came out in, I think, 99. So they've been out for a while. So anyone that's been with the series from back then obviously has more time to think about the series, and it's kind of set with them for longer, and they've thought about these characters, maybe thought about their past, what their history was like, so they've got kind of preconceived ideas. Much like since I started this series in July, I don't really have that. I've kind of went from book to book to book, never really thinking too long or hard about what some of these characters were like in their stories that haven't been told about them yet. So I'm kind of going along and accepting all of this and just kind of enjoying it. So I'm kind of curious. The only thing I can relate to about this would be maybe Star Wars, because I was there with Star Wars from the very beginning. So when the prequels came out, we all kind of had our preconceived ideas about what those prequels would be. As we were young, starting off with Star Wars, and as we grew older and we got more into kind of darker stuff, kind of more adult things, we kind of wanted the prequels to reflect that, especially since they were supposed to go over the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars should have been dark, about these mysterious Jedi, and then one of them becomes dark and go to the dark side, and we thought all these so. Our imagination went wild, and so we got what we got with the prequels. And some people were disappointed, and then at this point, most people have the Star Wars and the prequels already pre-existing in the world, and they don't have those preconceived ideas. So there's all these different mindsets. When you try to do a prequel, you are combating those preconceived ideas. So those could be kind of hard to deal with, and you may end up disappointing some people. So it's kind of a tightrope to play with this. So you really have to be on your A game when you do a prequel. Now, coming to these, if you're a first time reader, I was kind of thinking, if these would be kind of tricky to read if these were the first books that you read in the series, because it kind of jumps you in without any. A lot of the books had glossaries. But the other books had you kind of jump in anyway, and you just kind of had to learn as you go, and you're sometimes confused during certain parts of it. So if you hadn't, if you know, so to speak. So if you've read all the other books, you're a veteran, and you know what's what, and you're not confused with these. However, if you haven't, if these are your first books reading, you may be a little bit lost as well. Just so you know. You're introduced. The main character of the book is Doran, who is an assassin. He kind of thinks of himself as sort of this know-it-all assassin who's been trained by the best, and he's ready to show the world what he's made of. He thinks he's this big amoral assassin that could do anything, and he goes into the big city of Lahing to kind of prove himself. He's had a kind of a run-in with this crazy mage named Wu. He thinks that he might want to seek some revenge on this guy, so he tracks him to Lahing, and he's going to take care of that rogue mage, and he's also going to prove himself in the city. It doesn't go so well for him to start out. And he runs into some missteps. One of the cool things about this book is that it kind of focuses in on one city. With all the other books, there was this huge sprawling fantasy that went from place to place. And especially with Stephen Erickson's books, Ian's Malazan Empire at least would kind of focus on one area, but he had like a big vast array of characters. However, in this, it's sort of a smaller set of characters in a city-state, so you really get to drill down on these characters and really enjoy what they are and what they bring to the table. And you kind of have Doran's like the main character, and you have a couple of other sort of secondary main characters. The city's run by this protectress, who's this big mage. She has 5 other mages in her cabal that kind of helps her run things. One of them being Silk. He's kind of a young guy, pretty guy. Still hasn't kind of proved himself either. It's sort of young guy, and so he's sort of like the odd man out with these mages, and he's trying to prove himself, prove his worth. And then there's also Aiko, who is with the visiting representatives of Kanice. She's a protector of her king. They have a female group of assassins, or well, not really assassins, sort of guards, and they go in with the emissary to kind of bring the king's demands of Lahing. He wants to take over Lahing into his empire, and they kind of get stuck there when war breaks out between the king and the protectress. And so they're sort of like the captives, and Aiko's sort of a young guardswoman who is also very much kind of disliked, and also is trying to prove herself. So there's sort of a theme of these 3 characters, kind of young. They feel like they know who they are. They're trying to prove themselves, to prove their worth in this world. And throughout the book, they kind of come to terms with how other people see them, and also how they grow within the book. They find these troubling and challenging situations that they have to overcome, and they grow from it and become better people. And that's what I really enjoyed about this book, is that it kind of really digs in deep on these characters, and it's much more of a character driven story, whereas the other ones, they did have characters, but it was a much bigger books with a bigger scope, and you could almost kind of lose sight sometimes of the characters and what they're going through when you're kind of wrapping your head around these huge ideas that those books were kind of laying forth, whereas this kind of just drills down into these characters and really kind of goes through their struggles. And there's very much one of the things with the other books as well is there's a humor to them, and there's a lot of humor in these books as well. That at the expense of some of the main characters, I like how it shows you how. In a very subtle way, with because he kind of gets into the heads of the characters as he writes, and so you're seeing it. It's not in first person, but it's in a familiar third person, to where you understand and hear what their thoughts are, and you see how what they think of themselves and sort of the reactions that they're getting from other people, how that doesn't always jibe, and how they through the process of the book kind of come to terms with how other people see them, and actually kind of change who they are because of how they see themselves, and how they grow themselves to become better people. Like Doran, he's sort of like, he feels he feels like he needs to be this amoral assassin to kind of get through the world, but he's always at odds with the moral core of who he is, and kind of dealing with how human he actually is, and how that changes through the story. I was very fascinated by that, and like I said, and it's also kind of told in kind of a big adventure sort of story. You're constantly engaged with the action. The actions, if not nonstop, it's very very much present. There's not a whole lot of talking heads in this thing. You're going from situation to situation, and it's very engaging. Sometimes when you have different perspectives, when you jump from character to character, even though you only jump around to maybe three main characters, you run the risk of one of the stories not being as engaging as the other. So I always reference back to reading Game of Thrones, and when I get to a certain set of characters, like, oh, really? We're getting back to these people? Don't really care for them. Let's get back to this other character. Whereas in this book, you didn't mind jumping from character to character. All of them were engaging. All of them were fascinating. All of them, you really wanted to know what was going to happen. And also, it's a quick read. It's only 400 pages. The edition I read, I'm a physical media guy, so I had to have the actual book. And only 400 pages. Big print, so it was kind of a breeze. I'm kind of a slow reader, so those huge Erickson books, even I love them to death. Favorite things I've ever read, but they're a challenge to read. Whereas this, I was quickly kind of breezed through it, and I really wanted to do like a drilled down review of this. Let me know what you thought of it. Like I said, I'm not getting too much into the nitty gritty of this, but it's very, very approachable, very readable. I think that even if I had, say, a decade with these characters, I think I would still enjoy this, just because they're highly engaging characters, and the story that it's telling. I like the fact that these almost mythical characters from the main series are very, very human in this, and being young, you definitely make mistakes. You have your issues that you have to overcome to become the person that you are later down the road. And I like how there weren't kind of built in, and they weren't like, superhuman to begin with. Everybody's human, and I enjoy that. Like I said, he wrote it in an engaging way that told an engaging story that was very readable. I'm looking forward to the future books. Let me back here. Let's see. I've only read the prologue to this one, Dead House Landing. This is the next book. If you enjoy this, if I get enough viewers, I might go on to the other ones. I know I've had some issues with audio in the previous videos. Hopefully I fixed that. I raised the gain a little bit on this. So, and I did a couple of test videos. I think I got it good. Background noise may be a little high, so I apologize if that's a distraction or sounds bad. But yeah, if you guys enjoy this one, I may do a review on the future ones, or I might wait till I get, because I think he's got 4 books. The three books on Ian's website here, but he's got a 4th one. I think, and it's ian-esslemont.com. I'll put that in the links down below. But yeah, Forge of the High Mage is the one that just came out. Like I said, I might just go ahead and then here's the his Malazan Empire novels. I did a video a little bit back. I did it handheld, kind of looking over my books. So if you don't like shaky cam, you might want to skip. But it just kind of gives my impressions on these 6 books. Kind of random, kind of scattershot done. Not as focused a review as this has been. But yeah, our channel is the first, last, the Nerdum. We cover everything under the Nerdum rainbow. We like horror, we like fantasy, we like sci-fi, we like comic books, movies. On our podcast, we focus in on movies, be it horror, fantasy. We just did a look at Lady Snowblood, in which I have here's the Blu-ray of that right here. Lady Snowblood, with her friend Jay. Jay suggested it as an interesting female samurai movie from the 70s that was influential on Kill Bill. Check it out if you want. And but yeah, if you like this video, put a like and a subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.